Dua enter, Dua ancestor, Dua. Welcome to the Sankofa Ancestor Shrine. I'm your host, Sacred Woman Practitioner Tatami, and I am so excited to be talking to you from my new home, my new living space. Finally, my family has some stability and I'm able to actually start making a schedule again. So I'm very excited about that. I'm in the garage because it is 6 o'clock in the morning. My husband is asleep. My children are asleep. It's actually my wedding anniversary. No, not my wedding anniversary. My relationship anniversary. I was technically married in December. I want to say a couple days before Christmas, but honestly, we just don't celebrate that date. We always celebrate July 4th because that's the day we decided we were together when we were children. So I am going to have to wrap this up probably in the next hour or so, but I think that gives us plenty of time. I want to, before we really get into everything today, to tell you about a fundraiser for a wonderful Black midwife in our community named Juju. Juju had a job offering from a white midwife who was kind of trying to do that whole, supporting the Black community thing. You know how after all of the big protests, everybody was trying to like say, what can I do? And so that was kind of one of the things. They were going to give her this job for like $6,000 a month to be helping with all these births. But by the time she ended up over there, it was like $1,000 per birth, and there was no guarantees of anything, and the housing situation they had set up for her wasn't going to happen. It was a whole mess, and basically she moved to a different state and lost a bunch of money and was temporarily homeless. So she lost about $7,000. This fundraiser is going to be through my shop, ritualready.org, or you can go to Etsy. Ritual Ready is on Etsy as well if you prefer to shop through there. And I have a few items that I've marked that if you buy them, Juju will get the profits from them. Like I'll just pay for the materials and the shipping and she'll get everything after that. And so I have some small items. I have this little figurine with gold waist beads. She's very sweet. She's just a new thing I was going to put up. And I also have this pen, this little Sacred Woman pen. You can get her in white like this. Also, I have some other colors listed up there: purple, blue, yellow, red, that type of stuff. So yes, I also made these Ancestor Incense. You can just light them and let them burn, put them on a safe surface and let them burn, or put them on top of a coal. However you'd like to do it, it's up to you. But these are some Ancestor Incense, and I'm selling those in packages as well. And I have a quilt, that long altar cloth quilt is also up for sale, as well as what is it called? I have like a half size of that, so you can use it as like a blanket scarf. You can get fashionable with it. You can just be in your house and just be just a really long blanket that everybody can use, and it uses like a lap quilt on a long sofa. It can be used as a picnic blanket, whatever. I don't know. The possibilities are endless, but all of those are up, and those four items. I might also put a Madonna up, but I'm not sure if I finished that figurine enough to like put it up and offer it to people yet. But I'm just trying to raise some money for her for this July. So if you happen to have something, make some extra money, I'm also going to include the just donating to her directly, which is obvious, best case option. She just gets the cash directly. And so hopefully, yeah, you can help out and help her regain some of what she's lost so that she can at least pick herself up and, keep going again after such a, awful experience. Okay. So now that I'm done with that, I'm on page 43. We are going to be starting on chapter 3, The Spirit of the Womb. We're going to be skimming these next like one or two pages. Let me see. Yeah, we're going to be skimming the next few pages and really starting up on page 47, but I didn't really want to skip the Sacred Womb Journal because I do think it's so important to have these outlets. There's this part here where, let's see, I'll just read it to you. We're on page 43, like I said. Sacred Womb Journal work is a way to demonstrate to yourself that you don't want to carry the pain anymore, that you're willing to give it up because you've allowed it to speak. There's been too much pain, too much to bear. And the irony is that so much profound healing happens as soon as we're willing to acknowledge and listen to the voice of the womb. The sacred mother's waiting hand has been outstretched as she says, I am here. Just give your pain to me. And you've kept saying, no, thank you. I've got to hold on to it. I've got to hold on to it. I've got to keep holding on to it, even if it kills me. This part, I think, is just a profound reminder of that release that you can get. And it's also a reminder to you that your sacred womb journal doesn't necessarily have to be something totally written out, right? Not everybody's a great writer. Not everybody, a lot of people find themselves, even they buy the new journal and then they're sitting down and nothing comes out. And so I don't want those people to feel like, oh, like, I don't know if I can really do this, blah, blah, blah. There are other ways, you can go speak about it out loud, out in nature. You can make videos for yourself. So, keep all the videos private on a YouTube channel that nobody knows about. You can, or like a private Instagram or something like that. There are ways that you can use kind of that oral history, which I think especially as Black people, as descendants of Africans, that oral history is very strong within us. That's, how we passed along our history for a very long time. And, people would learn these stories word for word, literally thousands of words of stories. And that was some people's whole job, was to remember these histories, was to learn these histories. And so, I think that remembering that it's not just like getting a journal or doing this, or like even just spending money on a journal if you don't have it. I think, just remembering that there are other options and to continue to think outside the box as a sacred woman will really help everybody form their journey around themselves. Also, reading this made me think about how a lot of my journals are just written at times when I'm really upset. I often don't write when I'm really happy, which is something that I'm always trying to adjust or fix, I guess. It's not like a huge problem, but I don't like that when I go to my journals. It's not like, oh, today was a wonderful day at the park. It's usually like when things are just so devastated and it's like, who do I talk to? Where do I turn? But at the same time, that's a really wonderful outlet for that type of thing. So, using that as a way to just release it all or to just put it on paper what you're really feeling, what you really think is going on, or what you suspect is going on, or how you feel about it, or how other people are reacting to your trauma, those types of things. It's really good to work it out in some types of ways. So figure out a way that you're going to have a sacred woman womb journal and really connect with your womb, connect with those feelings, connect with what's happened to it, what you've wanted to happen to it, the journey you've had together, how you've mitigated that. Keeping a recording of that can be so powerful, especially as you go year from year and you may forget what you did or what you invested your time into. Um, let's see. Okay, so she also says, and then it begins too with womb cancer, hysterectomies, radiation therapy, all caused by holding on to our hurts and pains. So many things have been done to our wombs without our conscious awareness, and some things were indeed conscious acts. A lot of things that happened in our lives were the result of pure ignorance. Actions performed by those who knew no better. However, now for us to grow and heal together, we have to be willing to risk exposing our ignorance of ourselves and any others who share our experience in some way so that we can all learn by sharing our experiences with one another. And I think that's important too, is recognizing that there isn't a need for shame. There isn't a need for shame when you have like odors. I know like a lot of times like it's just really funny to go off and off and off, which is always so crazy to me about how people go on and on about like women's odors. I'm like, men could probably use this conversation sometimes, but there's this fixation on it, and there's this fixation on shame, and it leads to people not being able to, heal themselves. It leads to people not feeling like they can admit they may not know what they've been doing wrong or what they could be doing better. And we just have this complex in this society of so much shame that, even when it's not really like necessary, that it keeps people so isolated. And who knows who else might also have these issues, who knows who else might also have these pains, who might be experiencing fibroids, who might be experiencing infertility, who might be experiencing a lot of pain on their period, different little things. But, I think it's been such a revolution for us in the last few years on the internet, being able to speak with each other and learn these things and be casual about them. I know sometimes people will be like, oh, like, I'm tired of hearing about like pussy power and stuff. But the reality is we haven't even had pussy power for very long. You know what I mean? We haven't even had, people being casual and comfortable talking about like discharge and periods for like in certain spaces still for very long. And it just feels like, we whenever we start to see a bit of like uh normalization, normalization, it immediately gets shut down because people are like, oh, I don't want to hear it, oh, I don't want to be a part of it. It makes me uncomfortable. You're not special just because you were born as you, which I disagree with. I think we were pretty much all born special just because we were born as us. Each person is just so unique. Oh, my goodness, so much potential, so unique. And it's a shame when we don't celebrate that or address that for what it is, and just try to blanket cast everybody and shame them into, normalcy, or not standing out the way that they might prefer. Okay, so we're gonna skip that part, but oh, she does include this poem that I think is really wonderful on page 46. This Langston Hughes poem, The Dream Deferred. Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? And she says this is a good description of an unhealed womb. If we don't relate to our wombs and resolve our inner womb conflicts, the spirit of the womb dries up and we are numbed, or the womb releases a stench because we are bitter, or crowded out by a tumor and it destroys our creativity. Worse, it can fester and drip and create even more serious diseases that cause our wombs to rot and then be lost through hysterectomy. And I think this is a powerful thought too, because it's a reminder of how time consuming it is to heal, to put in this effort. It becomes all consuming. It's we are asking all these questions and we're actively seeking these answers. And it can take away from when we could be getting creative, when we could be serving ourselves or our community. And it can become all consuming when you're just having to deal with this trauma, which is why it's so important to address it, to spend time on it, so that that healing can occur and that daily life can be opened up more and more for these other things that aren't just focused consistently, constantly on healing and like toxicity and all of this other stuff. We can focus on our meshkinet, our life's work, whatever it is that gives us passion and drive, right? To heal our wounds, we need to be willing to go deep in the memories that our wombs retain. We must be willing to return to the scene of the crime or the pleasure and meet the ones who insulted, abused, outraged, or misused our wombs, or the ones who have been kind, respectful, loving, and gentle to our wombs. And that is that, balance that I'm saying, like, I struggle with my journaling is, remembering those wonderful times, those good times. Sometimes, we can get so caught up on the bad times that it's hard to remember the good times, where it all started or why we're even there in the first place. you know uh it's hard to take yourself back to those feelings that you once had or to understand it. But it's also important because that also shaped you. It wasn't just the trauma, it wasn't just the bad times, it wasn't just the ancestral trauma that needs to be healed, right? There was also that ancestral blessing, those wonderful attributes, the, the healer that was passed down in you, the lover that was passed down in you, the clever, wily person, trickster that was kind of passed down into you. And then also all of the good experiences that you had also shaped you, all of the people who supported you or believed in you, or just like in passing you had a good experience with. Those also had profound effect and shape on ourselves, on our womb energy, on everything that we are, working towards and experiencing today. So it's important to focus on both, not just the bad stuff, the trauma, the sickness, all of that stuff too. Okay, so the womb as a spiritual center, page 47. The physical womb, or uterus, is located in the pelvic region and is sheltered by the ovaries and fallopian tubes. The most sacred female organ of reproduction is hollow, pear-shaped, and lies on top of the bladder. The uterus is composed of 3 layers. Beginning at the innermost layer, we have the endometrium, then the myometrium, and the parametrium. The uterus also has 2 parts, the body and the cervix. The body of the uterus expands from the top of the organ to the narrow outer end, the cervix. To find your own womb, sit quietly with your eyes closed on cushions on the floor, tailor fashion or upright in a comfortable chair with your feet on the floor, legs uncrossed. Relax and just be for a minute or 2. Now we're going to lay hands on our womb. So rub your palms briskly together. And once you've built up continuous heat in your hands, we will press them right over your womb. You will find it between your navel and your pelvic girdle, between your fallopian tubes and your ovaries. Remember, the womb is not the vagina. So usually a general rule is about 3 fingers down from your belly button is where you have the womb. Allow your hands to feel the presence of your womb, the spirit of your sacred seat. Allow the inner heat to pass from your hands to your heart into your womb. Be still and focus your attention within and feel your womb energy. Now open your eyes and sit quietly within your divinity. Sit with yourself as a sacred queen and know that we are all divine. The spiritual aspect of the womb in the body is seen as an arit, the original Kemetic word for spiritual energy center or gateway. The aritu, plural, are also referred to as the chakras, the 7 basic subtle energy centers of the body. The womb arit corresponds to the 2nd chakra, representing the aspects of procreation, inspiration, and family. I've researched this a bit, and there's confliction in that area of study comparing the audit to chakras. Some people are vehemently against it. Other people see the similarities, see how they can be compared. It's kind of up to you and your interpretation of both, spiritual energy explanations from different cultures. If a womb is damaged in any way, if it has experienced heavy menstrual bleeding or PMS, if it has sustained numerous infections, fibroids, tumorous growths, If the womb area has been cut or bruised, irradiated, or chemically sprayed, if it has experienced invasion or abuse by a sexual partner, if it has been harmed by abortions or hysterectomy, then a woman's level of creativity and inspiration, stability, success in relationships, fertility levels, and joy are potentially impaired unless this is addressed and healed, right? So that's what she's saying here is not if you have a hysterectomy, you are broken, right? If you have a hysterectomy, there's nothing you can do. It's gone. It's over. What she's saying is that there is a process of healing that certain actions will require after they are performed. You know, surgery on your womb is surgery on your womb, even if you're in a place where it's something that you want or it's something that you need. It's still a form of alteration of your body that will need healing and adjustment to, and understanding and peace to be with it, or else it can be a traumatic event. An example, I think a good example for my personal life is abortion, because after I had the twins, I felt I just couldn't have more kids. It's just not fair to them. It's kind of not fair to me either, because I don't really even feel very healed completely from them. And it's been 6 years, you know, I don't think I'll ever be back to what I was physically, you know, unless I get some kind of like surgery on my abs or something, my ab muscles. I just don't think it's going to happen. And so, you know, I have all these very valid reasons. For me, is completely the right choice. But there still was elements of trauma and sadness and loss, and, you know, wondering what could be if I was a richer person, if I was a healthier person, if I, like some other people, had been able to bounce back after twins, right? If, you know, even as somebody who specializes in postpartum, and I adore postpartum, and I encouraged myself to take a break after the twins, and I did. But at the same time, there's still this societal pressure to, you know, look the same, to bounce back, snap back, whatever, and to see all of the inundated by all of the imagery of people who have, because they're so celebrated, right? It's not really celebrated to look saggy and bloated and all of those realistic things after having a child, or you know what I mean? So there was still those pressures. There are still those pressures, even from those good decisions that I make, that are for me, that are for these things. I can still feel like trauma from them and sadness from them, and feel like, you know, oh, is this the right choice, or what could have been if it was something else? Would I have chosen it if some other crazy situation was actually my life? But it isn't. And so I do have to come to peace with that, and I do have to, you know, do releasing rituals for things like that, healing rituals, spiritual baths, and come back into myself and heal myself and feel who I am again. And that's perfectly okay, you know? And so I think that's really what she's focused on here, is that there is that potential, and making sure you're doing that upkeep as a sacred woman on yourself, on your family, on your friends, community. Those are the ways that we continue to promote healing. Those things like hysterectomy or cancer or, you know, abortion, those things are going to happen. That's life. As each person moves through their life, different things are going to happen. Miscarriages, fibroids, those things will happen. We're not here to eliminate them from the world, because things will happen, and there's no way under this system of society we're going to make the world so wonderful and just so amazing that these stress factors are so reduced and people aren't self-medicating, and, you know, everybody is just so healthy, and, you know, it's just pretty much impossible under this system of capitalism, right? There's always a suffering class. There's always a poor class that's going to need our help until things change. And that's really what sacred women are, is, you know, these bastions of hope, these bastions of healing and centered energy that the community can rally around, and we can continue to progress towards a better system of life where these things aren't as much of an inevitability because people are so much healthier. things like miscarriage, stillbirth, all that, that's things are going to still happen, but some things can be reduced if we improve people's quality of life. And really, that's ultimately what we're fighting for as Sacred Women, right? It is kind of a political position to be taking within the community, within the society. All right, so oh, I think I was turned before I finished this page. The womb, Ari, is governed by the moon and thus the ocean tides, representing the element of water, which so deeply affects our emotional tides. This is why, as women, we're so positively affected by all water rituals, or and people with wombs, should I say, by all water rituals and healings. In the Sacred Woman teachings, you will learn that you can bless and drink one glass of water and transform your negative disposition back to balance. Try it and you'll be surprised. This is my favorite form of medicine, actually. It was one of the first things I learned as a Sacred Woman. I believe it was when I read the book by myself the first time, and I'm here on page like almost 50, and I read that and I stopped right then and I ran to get the water, and I've been doing it ever since. I highly encourage you, after, or if you're just walking around your house while you're listening to me, go get a glass of water, hold it in your hand just like this. Speak some blessings over it, speak some wellness over it, speak what you want to happen today, or what kind of day you want for you to have, like how you want to react to things, how you want to interact with the world today, perhaps, whatever small prayer. Bless it. It could be a very simple one. Get a small phrase. If you'll remember, I do have that Ancestor Prayer book. It is free, the PDF, and you can also get the actual book on Amazon. It's called The Earth and the Ancestors. It's the most popular ancestor prayer book on Amazon. Thank you to everybody who's been sharing. Who knew, who knew when I made that book that, I'd be selling so many copies. Like, I think I sell like 50 copies a month, which I don't make much money off of it. I think I make like 50 cents to $1 off of each one because I wanted it to be affordable. I wanted everybody to be able to have this book. But anyway, you can get that book and use a phrase out of it, speak some wellness over it. The PDF is on ritualready.org. Um, it's a free ancestor prayer book in the blog section of it. When you click on it, when you go to ritualready.org, if you scroll down a little, you'll see the blogs. There's several different blogs, like free spiritual planners, stuff about the ancestors. I'm not sure what my most recent one was. You can shower under your bathroom's waterfall, inhaling the blessed negative ions from a cool shower spray. You can bathe in the ocean. You can walk in the rain. Take a salt bath in your private hydrotherapy room. Don't use any salts if you have high blood pressure or edema. You can fast on live juices and waters. Wear shades of blue and white, the colors of water. Any one of these water works will amazingly reconnect you with your Sacred Woman self and restore your beautiful, natural, forgiving, overstanding womb state. This in turn will spin the energy of your womb chakra in the natural clockwise motion of an Arit in intermat divine right order. Okay, so that I think is a beautiful place to stop. All of these different boom, boom, boom ideas of how to invoke that water energy into your spiritual practice. Um, as most of you probably know who are here, we focus on Hoodoo, Conjure, American root work in this sister circle, so that we're not just focused on Kemetic or any other form of spiritual practice. We focus on the ancestors and our spirit, and that's about it. But I do, not but so I do want to remind you of the rich Black American history with spirituals, with the water, baptisms, using rivers. We have so much history. And if you just look around your local area, I'm sure you'll find some connection of Black Americans to the water in your local area. And if you are from somewhere that's not actually super connected to the water, because I know most Black folk live around the coastal areas of the United States, so most of us are actually pretty close to water. But if you're not, if you're like, hey, I live in Arizona or something, I don't know, I think still finding a way to connect with the water in different ways, for example, mixing water with sand to perhaps like make a bowl or something, to make something to create temporary items to use, or even putting water in like a water bottle, making a spiritual bath, straining it out, and going out somewhere in nature. You can do this anywhere really, and having kind of like a spiritual bath in the hot sun somewhere like that, so that it all just kind of goes in your skin and you feel it, and then when you get home you can like rinse off. That's another way you can do. You can work with the waters. You can also finding the different plants that do store water. I know that there are like cactus that can do that. There are ways that you can incorporate that into your spiritual practice or into your spiritual baths that you do at home. So I think that, really trying to think outside the box, that's really what root work is about. That's what Conjure is about. It's about using what you have around you and like being useful, being resourceful with that type of stuff, not just buying things or, doing what somebody else is doing. Because how somebody practices Conjure in, North Carolina is going to be very different from how somebody practices in Southern California, because we just have such different weather. We have different, you know, seasons. Like the way our seasons work is just completely different. And so, the earth that they have over there is very different from the earth we have over here. We can both make clay, but our clay will look very different. You know what I'm saying? We can both dig up some earth, and how they wash it out and strain it out, and then you have just the pure dirt, the clay. If we both did that, it would be just so different. We'd make such different ugly jugs. You know what I'm saying? But it's kind of similar practices, but it changes depending on where we are. So I encourage you to think of a unique way to incorporate water that's local to you, but then also, that's generic to all of us, such as blessing a cup of water and, drinking it and drinking in those blessings. There's so many different ways we can do it. And I think you'll probably be surprised if you look up some of your ancestors in your local area. Every time I move to another city in this local area in those last few years, I always look up, Black people in San Mateo, Black people in Santa Cruz, Black people in Redwood City, because it's always fascinating to see the unique history of our ancestors, learn where they're historically buried, learn, all those different things. Our local communities are always chock full, and often you'll be able, like I said, with the cemeteries, you'll usually be able to go find where people there's usually a plot in a lot of cemeteries where you can go and maybe have lunch with your ancestors, go leave an offering, walk backwards out of the cemetery when you leave, and stay safe, all of those things. But look up your local area. That's my advice, as well as the water. Oh, and please don't forget the fundraiser. Please share it. Please help out if you can. Juju really needs this help, and I really want to be able to, send her something. Send her something from this. So please, 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 if you can help, if you can afford. I think the cheapest one is like $20. It's all of them have free shipping. So the price you see is the price you're going to pay. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So please help out if you can. May your ancestors and spirit guides be with you at every crossroads, and I will see you next time.